Hello there once again for another exciting movie show. Still no title. Not titling it. I've officially decided
I,
to untitle it.
if the first when you did that, I thought it was cool. Now I think it's pretentious.
It's pretentious. Well, it's just that there's no good name because anytime you think of a good title, it's just like, oh, that's already taken, or it's just
Yeah.
like it's just a bad pun.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
I thought of a name, and now I can't remember what it was. Remember my idea, just JJ, because it would be your name, and then it would
Yeah.
also just
Yeah.
cover both of
Just
us.
brand. Just I will accept all branding that is just focused solely around me. That's fine.
Hey, you're the one that pays, so
Yeah, this costs me money. I should be the one that gets
you
top
do the
billing.
editing. You do the editing.
Yeah, quote end quote. Editing.
I've never even listened to one of these shows, so
There's a. I kept in. The episode hasn't gone live yet, but maybe by the time this gets out, it will have gone live. But it was the last episode where you just wandered away because you didn't know I started yet.
I did not know.
Yeah, I kept that. I thought it was very funny content. I was like, yeah, I gotta keep this.
My pee break.
Yeah, your pee break and just started the episode.
Is my volume good? I never asked you.
Yeah, you sound fine.
Okay. I'm leaning back. I assume I'll lean forward at some point.
Yeah. Get yourself nice and comfy because we're in for the long haul. Because today's movie is 2005's Batman Begins, baby.
Batman Begins. This was kind of a funny one because it came out a couple weeks after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, it did.
If you know how much I love Star Wars, that kind of dominated my movie watching for the next year or so. So I remember when I first saw it, I actually saw it at midnight because I could have, it's back then. And I liked it and everything. I liked it a lot. And then and I saw it a couple times. And then I didn't really, really love it until I saw it on DVD. And I was like, holy shit, that was really good. That's when I was taken with it. I always liked it.
Yeah, this movie came out at a weird time for comic book movies.
Marvel hadn't taken over yet.
But in terms of theatrical movies, and they had.
By this point, the Disney Marvel, Marvel Studio thing.
Yeah, MCU doesn't kick off for another 3 years after this.
Yeah.
So and then just absolutely dominates from there on out, but not without well,
it's funny because there was
sequel
Superman.
to this. Yeah, the sequel to this comes out the same year as Iron Man. So
yeah, well, it's funny because Superman came out in 79, was a really big movie. There was 3 more sequels. Batman was 89, had sequels. Those were big. And that was about it. I mean, they had little tries here and there, but nothing took off.
Here's the breakdown. In 66 you had the Batman movie based off of that series.
Yeah.
But then
when they throw the guy in the ocean and he blows up.
Yeah. 78 you have Superman, the first one. 80 you got Superman 2. 82 they put out a Swamp Thing movie.
Oh yeah. The Wes Craven one.
Yeah. 83 was Superman 3. 84 they did a Supergirl movie.
Oh, that's right. That was on Netflix for a while, but I couldn't dare myself to watch it. I was trying to, but I was like, that girl's in a Seinfeld episode, actually.
Yeah. 87 was Superman 4. 89, the return of Swamp Thing.
Oh, that was I watched that a little bit ago. That movie was fucking terrible. As a kid, I loved it though. My dad always loved it just for Heather Locklear.
Yeah. But then at that point, 89 is when Batman comes out, and that becomes a huge hit. 92, you have Batman. And I'm doing these in order. I'm not missing a single one of them.
Not one goddamn one.
Yeah. 92 was Batman Returns. 95 was Batman Forever. 97 was Batman and Robin and Steel.
Oh, Steel.
Those came out the same year. And then there's absolutely nothing until 2004.
Jeez.
Which is Catwoman.
Oh yeah, Catwoman. That movie is as bad as you've heard.
Yeah. And then 2005, you've got Constantine, which comes out early in the year.
Oh,
and then Batman Begins, which comes out later in the year.
Yeah. It's funny because it was when The Dark Knight came out, when I was working, there was a lot of at that place. There was a lot of younger people there, and most of them hadn't even heard of Batman Begins. And I was like, this wasn't like a box office breaker, but it wasn't small. Yeah. It was like weird that a lot of people that were like in high school didn't know of that movie.
There was a new Batman movie out because, but for all intent and purposes, the Batman franchise was dead.
Oh yeah,
like and sort of like universally dead. Like if it weren't for the like there weren't like the cartoon was done and over with by that point. The animated series, the Batman and Robin killed the franchise theatrically. Yeah. Even the comics were kind of in a nowhere place. Like they were still being made and they were still fine, but they weren't like Batman wasn't at his peak anymore. And then you go over to the Marvel side, and Marvel didn't really have a whole lot going on for them. DC had a shit ton of stuff in the 70s and 80s, but Marvel, like the first ever Marvel movies, Howard the Duck.
That's right.
Then you have the Punisher, the Dolph Lundgren Punisher.
Dolph Lundgren,
yeah. There was a direct-to-video Captain America movie in 1990.
Yep, I saw that back in the day.
You have that Fantastic Four movie that never got officially released.
Yeah.
And then 98, you get Blade, which was their first. That was like their first movie that was like a thing. That was like people like saw Blade, liked Blade, thought it was cool. There's a lot of yeah. And then 2000 is when X-Men hit. And
which was huge.
It was sort of game on. You have X-Men leading up to Batman Begins. You have X-Men, Blade 2, Spider-Man, Daredevil, X2, Hulk, Punisher, Spider-Man 2, and Blade Trinity. In the same year that Constantine and Batman Begins comes out, 2005, you get Elektra and the Fantastic Four.
Elektra.
So at this point, Marvel starts having a bad run of things, the Marvel franchises, because you have Elektra. When Batman Begins comes out is when you get Elektra, Fantastic Four, X-Men 3, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man 3, which we have our own opinions of Spider-Man 3, but you just have to take the sort of general consensus for it. And you have the Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. That is a stretch of, years of having, Marvel being absolutely nothing. Movies that are making no money that nobody wants to see. And 2008 is when you sort of start to get when Disney starts taking over. And keep in mind, when Iron Man came out, it was, Marvel's bringing out the C team.
Oh yeah.
And so like when that stuff was like, it's now they're just kind of grasping for straws. X-Men and Spider-Man were super popular. And so now they're just kind of grasp for straws. In 2008, you had a new Hulk movie, a new Iron Man movie, and that crazy Punisher movie, Warzone.
Oh, I didn't see that. I saw the first one. I skipped school and we saw that one. It wasn't very good.
Warzone's bonkers movie. It's well worth. It's violent. It's incredibly violent. It's like a guy, like a parkour guy, gets blown up with a bazooka. It's great. But things start. The Fox side of things start to sort of wane a bit. Like they're having a hard time nailing. Like Fantastic Four is effectively done for them.
Yeah,
they try again in 2015, but it never worked. But X-Men Origins Wolverine was a bomb.
Yeah,
First Class was good. The Ghost Rider sequel was bad. But
Nick Cage's last chance to be an A-list. Box office draw.
Yeah. But now obviously Marvel found its groove. So now like Marvel is in that stage that like 70s and 80s DC was at, where it's just like we're big, we're the biggest, and and like DC right now is just sort of like they're spending too much time trying to figure it out and just not pumping out things, because for every good thing there's two bad things. So or even mediocre, which you can't at this late stage in the game, you can't be mediocre. It's like that doesn't work anymore, because like even a mediocre MCU movie is still like doing billion Fox.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing too,
and is relatively well liked. Yeah.
Well, the cool thing
they're not
too
as
was
tethered to anything, which sucks because if they not being tethered to anything, they could just be doing whatever they want whenever they want, and they're desperate to try to link everything together like the MCU is doing, and I don't think that's the route for DC.
No, I mean, I think that's hard to do in movies, and not necessarily the way to do it. I mean, you make it work, but
yeah,
I like things when they're on their own, Then you don't have to have prior commitments or whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, it works really well with the Marvel stuff because they're able to sort of get away with like having their own standalone thing with just sort of a tenuous connection.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like as long as like it doesn't even sometimes it doesn't matter. Like there's been times where they've ended movies that like kind of screw up the future, like what the plans going forward were, but they just work around it.
Yeah.
They tried that with Star Wars and it didn't work, but they have a lot of, but like when you're working with Marvel and you have a lot of Marvel people involved and stuff, there's easy ways to do it in the comic book universe to do whatever you want. Nobody really thinks too hard about it.
Yeah. Well, the great thing here is you have the same writer and director making a trilogy that has a well-rounded story that has a beginning, middle, and end. And this is definitely one of the best franchises of all time for that sole reason. Like, I mean, there's a lot of them where they're good or this one's not as good or whatever, but this one actually is just this fucking works.
It's one of the few trilogies, that is like fully coherent of itself.
Yeah. I mean, like Star Wars, real Star Wars is the only other place where you get that.
Yeah, because like Indiana Jones is its own thing. Like it bounces around. They're just telling the stories they want to do. Back to the Future, I guess. Back to the Future, I guess.
But and there's not a whole lot of them out there.
Yeah, but for the most part, like it lucks out where it's just like. Though I will say. One thing that because I watched all of these just recently, and the one thing that bothers me, and especially kind of bothers me with they clearly have like at the end of each movie like a little bit of an idea where they want to go, but by the time they get to the next movie, it's like because as much as I like these movies, they spend no time really like with the concept of Batman. Like
Like, I mean, Begins does, which is why it's so good.
Yeah, like he has the Batcave, but it like never goes into any sort of practical use ever.
No. Like, I mean, just like once at the end, which is what I like is you get all the Batman things, but not really how you expect or want them, which is cool.
Or it's like at the end of like of Begins here, where it's like they make the little like maybe the what is East Wing or whatever or whatever the hell
and
it's like it kind of doesn't go anywhere because it's not like
it eventually does because Dark Knight takes place 6 months later, so they're not gonna build that shit in 6 months.
But so you get there and it's like they don't even really like hint at any of that, and like even in like Dark Knight Rises, there's no Batcave to be like dealt with, really.
It's just a little bit of built. It's like permanent things as opposed to the permanent things that they did in this one, but which is what I like though, because it's like taking all those Batman things and just doing what they want. Because I feel like with Nolan, he's like, here's the movie I'm going to make, and what Batman things kind of connect to this that we can turn into, which I like. Yeah,
I just like part of me wants the like. There's never been. Like, for lack of a better phrasing here, like a smart Batman. There's never been a detective Batman. He gets close in like at times in Batman Begins and at moments in Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But it never really comes together because he's really relying on Lucius to do a lot of the heavy lifting for him, and that just
he's that more really of a crime fighter.
He's more of just a straight up vigilante instead of being a detective, and I always miss seeing that Batman. But there's never been a Batman like that outside of Kevin Conroy's animated Batman.
No, well, I mean, and the thing is, I mean, I can watch these as a Batman comic fan or just as a movie fan, and I mean, either way, they're great. And it's like, your take on it, and there's so many different versions out there that it's like they've never done the Batman that I want before, and they never will because it's only in my head, and it's like there's so many different things that you pick and take.
I always joke with you, and I'm not really joking. I'm dead serious with it. It's like you're the biggest Batman fan that actually doesn't like Batman.
Comics is the difference between Batman. I love Batman, but comics tend to kind of change the right.
Yeah, you like Batman, but you like a couple of like just a handful of movies. What, like 5 or 6 movies of Batman, and that's basically the extent of your. You like this trilogy. You like 89.
Well, I don't like Forever and Robin, but I like everything other than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that. No, I mean, for the comics, there's a lot of not explaining and not even knowing what the fuck they're trying to do. And I mean, I like Batman. Either way I can get it. And I don't like him where he's in a sci-fi world, but I'll take it, But I mean, the way I prefer him is the realistic Batman, that's how I think
the Batman that hasn't been, the Batman that hasn't existed for like 50 years. Like,
the good Batman. And of course, I prefer a Batman that kills, but whatever. And this one is pretty funny. He's like, well, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to save you, which is basically just killing you. Or I'm not going to chop this guy's head off, but I will light this place on fire that's going to kill like 100 people. He definitely stretches it and rises. He kills the driver of the truck that has the bomb on it because he shoots it with the bat. A bat. They stretch that shit a lot.
They just finished up this series called The Joker War for the comics.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because it's an okay series. It was really hyped up, but it kind of didn't really go anywhere particularly
Sounds like
interesting.
A classic comic book.
It's kind of classic DC where it's like false starts a lot of times.
Whoever started it was good, and then they left, and then someone else didn't know what the hell to do. Then
it's the same. It's been the same writer and has been the same writer. It's just like it started. It's like a Grant Morrison kind of thing where it's just
fuck Grant Morrison. I fucking hate that guy.
Like, man, this is a great idea, and then it just kind of peters off into
he's the J.J. Abrams of comic books. Has great ideas, has no idea how to follow through.
You have this story of Bruce Wayne sort of finding out that he's possibly been manipulated since the start by sort of in the same way of these movies. It really takes a lot from these movies because it's a very the League of Shadows has been watching this whole time and sort of controlling all of this kind of nonsense. It eventually leads to the Joker's big thing was basically getting all of the Bruce Wayne fortune. So Batman has nothing, but it doesn't really play with that too much. Like, it doesn't slow Batman down at all. It doesn't have him figuring out how to do this on a shoestring budget or having to. It's just the Joker. It's just no. Now the Joker also has Batman gadgets, and that's where it kind of leads to. And the big finale.
It's cool.
Yeah, and the finale of it does have the whole thing where it's the
whole schmear.
The Joker is constantly trying to push Batman to the limit. He wants him to be pushed to his limit. He doesn't want him to kill him, but at the same time, you're gonna break that rule, and I'm going to be the one that makes you break it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so he's got that whole thing, but then Harley Quinn ends up stepping in and tying herself with a bomb and the Joker with a bomb, and you've only got time to save one of us, and Batman just walks off. Joker's tied to the bomb and walks off to save Harley Quinn. Cool. So they're trying to change the relationship between Batman and the Joker, but
Yeah. Well, the thing I love about Nolan is he said he's always been a Batman fan. Even in his first movie, Following, on the guy's door to his apartment, there's a big Batman sticker on it.
Yeah.
And, which nobody even knows that Following exists, but it's a great fucking movie. Actually,
First
the guy,
It's first one.
Yeah, black and white before Memento. At the end in the water, like control tower place where they're like talking, where you see the map of if the train gets to this point, it's going to get everything. That guy, the young guy, he's from Following. He's the main guy in that. But the cool thing about Nolan is he understands like the core of these, or sees things like opportunities that they've never really gone before with the characters or ideas, and like legitimizes them, which is cool, or just makes it his own, which is totally fine. Like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
acid Joker's fine. Scarred face paint Joker's fine.
Yeah,
like, it's all good.
Yeah, I mean, there's very little in his movies that are like uniquely Nolan. Like, to be honest, like there's most of it exists in some facet or another, in one way or another, just sort of grounded a little more in some instances or whatever.
Well, I really like the detail of it. Like with all of his gadgets he gets, like none of them are obviously made for this, so it's cool that he has to alter like everything. Like the belt has the straps on and he has to cut those off. In the ear, the helmet's like assembled from like a whole bunch of different things, and like that they order a shitload of them in bulk, so then to avoid detection, and can hide the radio in there. The memory cloth wasn't made for it. And that's probably the coolest idea of all these, because Batman always just kind of uses it like a parachute, which works in the comics. And then in this, you're like, oh, that's why he can kind of fly. That's why he can just jump off a building. and I like that kind of stuff. And like the belt has the little pulley system with the grapple gun, and like that stuff's really cool.
Yeah, they did that. They did that in the Tim Burton Batman stuff going on like that franchise.
What's that?
Like the pulley system and shit with the belts and stuff.
I think that's built into the gun in that one. He just, when he asked Vicky Vale how much she weighs.
I think there's like similar situations, and the action figure, if you recall, that had the
the belt that came off, and he'd fly way too quickly at the fan or whatever you were having him fly.
Smack. Batman's or like you're just holding it and Batman just whips right to your knuckle.
It's a heavy 80s toy too. Big ass Batman. I remember. So this was the first reboot in a movie, which we didn't know at the time. No one told us. So I was watching it, and like everybody else was, and Thomas and Martha Wayne get killed, and you're like, that guy's gonna be the Joker, because I only knew the movies at this point. And I was like, all right, I'm like, they'll probably just recast him later. And then that guy died, and I was like, wait a minute, this isn't a prequel.
I don't think that's.
I guess it just started over.
I mean, that's not entirely true, because the Punisher did come out first. Punisher came out in 2004.
Oh, okay, yeah, I guess that wasn't connected to it. Huh. Well, either way, this is the one that made the prequels a thing. Or I mean, not the prequel, the reboot.
Yeah.
Well, and it was called Begin, so that was a total prequel name.
Yeah, it was a bad title in that situation.
I mean, you figure it out in like 20 minutes, and you're like, okay. I remember talking to people about it, and they were like, "Wait, it's not connected to the other one?" I'm like, "No, because the Joker, the guy because his parents dies, and it's not the Joker." And they're like, "Oh, I never realized it." I'm like, you fucking idiots. Who the fuck are you people? Don't waste your time talking to me.
It doesn't help that it ends with the tease for the Joker, where it's just like, when it's like, oh, this is a prequel, because prequels were a thing at the time. It was easy to get lost into that sort of concept, because what's continuity, especially when it's something comic book related? There was no way of knowing that Christopher Nolan really gave a shit that much. There was really, like, he was at the time completely unknown.
Like Memento.
Yeah, and Memento was only for a very specific class of movie watcher at the time. Like, it was,
I mean, everyone I knew had seen it, over the years on video and stuff. And then he did Insomnia, then this. So he wasn't the Nolan that we know and love today.
Yeah.
Although I do want to say that the reason this movie is so good is because it was shot on film. It's really funny. Did you watch it on 4K?
No.
Okay, it's funny when you watch any movie like that because you really see the imperfections of movies.
Yeah.
Like you can see the microphones a lot of the time. You can see so many little things that are out of focus, and then you watch something that's digital 4K, and you're like, "Oh my god, this looks way better." You're like, "Nolan, what the fuck are you talking about?" I mean, it's obviously the movies look great, but they only look as good as they can look on film. I do love the bronze look of this movie.
Yeah. Oh, I love. Okay, so this movie in particular. So every one of these movies has some sort of basis in another like DC comic. Like they're not adaptations, but like this one is actually like a really close. Like a lot of the parts of it are really close to a comic book story from Secret Origins that came out in the 89-90. Called The Man Who Falls.
Oh yeah.
And and by Denny O'Neil, who just recently passed away.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And it is very much The Man Who Falls. Like it starts off with young Bruce Wayne falling into a hole on Wayne Manor with the bats and shit. Like it is very clearly.
Then it shows him dropping out of college and stuff like that, and he just
and young Bruce Wayne trying to get his shit together after his parents get killed and all that stuff, and like how the trauma of the past has turned him into sort of like a destructive personality until he eventually it's going to inevitably lead to what would be Detective Comics number 27.
But it even then doesn't really explain. Like, it doesn't do like half of what this movie does, like with the League of Shadows and how he gets all the tools and stuff. Like, it's funny that they never really explained it that much. Batman. His parents got killed. That's all the motivation you need. An explanation.
Well, there had been plenty. Well, in the comics, it's not that. It's because you have this comic that came out in '89, which sort of explains his sort of motivation.
Yeah.
And then you have like Year One, which goes into deeper stuff. Like for the most part, like the League of Shadows stuff is just another layer to the stuff. Like because it doesn't really like all of the stuff's there. Like all the stuff that's in Batman Begins are in like between Year One, The Man Who Falls, and a touch of Long Halloween, just a touch. There's some parts in Long Halloween.
The feel for sure. It's definitely the gangster feel, like, and that's where Falcone came from. So you have and just kind of, and the main thing they got from Year One was that Gotham isn't just the shittiest place to live. It's corrupt. That's what's going wrong with it. The cops, politicians, everyone's corrupt. That's why the crime is so bad, and it needs something. They don't have Elliot Ness, so they need Batman.
Yeah, I think the one thing that this movie does for the Batman lore better than what the Batman stuff was like it's not just the corruption part, it's that it was being intentionally manipulated. Like that was cool. Like the financial situation of the city was being intentionally manipulated by the League of Shadows to create the sort of the disparity between the upper class and lower class to create that.
And I like that Thomas Wayne inadvertently had been fighting against that. Like he didn't know that it was this calculated attack on Gotham's economics, but it was cool. And I like that too. That like in the Waynes, that's like their bloodline. They're all heroes because it's like Thomas Wayne. He's a philanthropist, and then his great grandpa was in the Underground Railroad. And stuff.
It's the Underground Railroad one was a little one of those like that's a little you're going like. You're trying too hard to make everyone too perfect. Like,
what explains the tunnels?
Like, but it's just like it works. It worked too hard for that. I think you didn't have to. This is like you don't have to explain the tunnels that way. That's how cities work. I mean, that's just how that stuff is. There's abandoned tunnels everywhere. There's abandoned underground cities everywhere. It doesn't have to be because your dad was your grandfather or great grandfather was a sympathetic hero during the Civil War era, helping black slaves escape. It's just
maybe they just wanted to hear Michael Caine say Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
But my other favorite line of his is those of us care about what you do with your future.
Yeah.
Future.
Young Bruce Wayne, like in the time where he's like back at Gotham and he's gonna shoot Joe Chill.
Yeah.
His hair is fucking terrible.
Yeah. I guess they're just trying to make Christian look young.
Yeah, they're trying to make him like, but like it's like I watched Newsies plenty of times. Like even young Christian Bale, like they spend too much. Like it takes too long for him to get his like combed back hair. He looks bad with the like messy, college frat boy hair.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a monkey because Christian Bale's mouth is always open.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, like, the higher the resolution's been getting, the more you notice the like mole on his the inside of his nose, like on his eye. It's like
eye.
Yeah.
I noticed that. Oh, it took me not too long. I mean, I've seen Begins a shitload, but I was like, "What's that on his eye?" Now I can't not see it.
Yeah.
Jennifer McCartney has it too.
Yeah.
Once I noticed it, my eye didn't look away.
Yeah. It's funny to watch him, like figure out like that he needs to be Bruce Wayne, like, and be an asshole as Bruce Wayne, see him sort of figure that stuff out. It's kind of funny. Yeah, well, I do appreciate that Alfred just kind of just rolls with it, man. There's no like, I can't have you doing this, sir. It's just like he's just like with it. Like
I think Alfred, as we see in the Rises, is either going to go along with it or he's just going to leave. Like he can only talk so much sense to this guy. I mean, when it comes down to it, Bruce is his boss.
Yeah.
And he's watching after him, so maybe he figured it was just something he had to get out of his system.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I mean, he brings it up later, like after he has the big car chase. Yeah. He's like, the only thing to stop me from calling the men into white coats. So he's like still on it. He's like still got his eye on him. And Alfred complaining about him not having a social life gets pretty annoying. I mean, he's right, but it still gets annoying because it's just kind of like the nagging wife in these movies. I mean, he's right, but just as a watcher, it kind of gets annoying. So I remember when the cast was coming out, when they were announcing the cast, it was fucking ridiculous because it was like, Katie Holmes was kind of the more like safe choice, I guess. And then you get like Gary Oldman and you're like, okay. And then you're like Michael Caine, all right. Morgan Freeman, you're like, yeah. Cillian Murphy, the guy from 28 Days Later, okay. And then it was like Tom Wilkinson, who? Oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah, he's cool. And we know Christian Bale was. If you saw American Psycho, you did.
Well, at the time, American Psycho was already a huge hit movie. So, and when it was announced, it was like, okay, I guess. But I actually looked it up. I looked up. Wanted to try to find an article of when Christian Bale was announced as I was about to say Spider-Man. I'm picturing that in my head. I'm like, man, Christian Bale is Spider.
But no, that high school hair.
Yeah. He would look like when Tobey Maguire tries to go emo in Spider-Man 3, and he's like pushing his hair forward. No, it was 2003 when they announced it. I found an MTV article that announced it. And it was 2003. It was 9/11 2003 when it was announced that he was going to be it. And they were running down like,
maybe they figured the good news would bring the spirits up of the American people.
And,
we were still sensitive about that time.
Yeah, it was running down like who was like in the running leading up to him. And boy, there was some really bad.
Is this actually in the running or just what tabloids thought was in the running?
No, at one point, Jake Gyllenhaal was like a front runner to be Batman.
Yeah, he'd be good. Oh, I remember hearing that now.
Billy Crudup was in there at one point. Joshua Jackson was going to be in there.
Whoa.
Heath Ledger, they actually went to.
Yeah.
And Cillian Murphy was a guy going to have it. David Boreanaz. I always forget how to pronounce his name.
Who's that guy?
The guy from Angel from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
That guy.
And Bones. He's the dude in Bones. Yeah.
The dude.
Boreanaz. Yeah. He would have done. I think he has a good look to potentially have been Batman in that time
Yeah,
frame.
all these guys sound pretty good. I mean, we've seen so many people as Batman that I'm like, yeah, that could work. I mean, like, even George Clooney would have been a good Batman. He's not the worst part of that movie. Like, George Clooney is on par with, the giant statues and the nipples on the suits and the spotlights and the ice puns, Like, blame this all on George Clooney.
Yeah. He was going to be the guy that played Ricky in Fight Club. I forget his name. It's got some, like, Ian Bailey, but it's like Eion. It's Eon Bailey. Yeah, he was in Bands of Brothers. He was Ricky in Fight Club. Trying to think of another. Like, he was in Almost Famous.
I think I say he was almost famous.
Yeah, but
we don't know who he is. He's almost there though.
Yeah, but
he's been in a lot of things I've seen.
But he was like the front runner for a bit too. Henry Cavill was apparently in there at one point. Yeah. Which I thought was weird. Like, all these guys eventually get there. So. Yeah,
totally. But it was funny though, because just this castle is coming out, and we're just like, oh my god, this movie's gonna be fucking huge. Yeah. Katie Holmes was a good pick because she's like is like the classic girl next door,
and
she's like very good at that.
And Christian Bale like expressed interest before being cast when it was going to be the Aronofsky movie way back when.
Oh yeah, weren't they going to use the Frank Miller script?
It was going to be like they were going to use some of it. I think. I don't think they were going to do the full year one thing, but they were going to
that Frank Miller script is fucking awesome. I love that. It's not even like the comic. I mean, it's like him doing the comic 10 years later. It like Batman gets his teeth knocked out and he has to put them like plastic teeth and spray paint them white and stuff. And that thing's fucking brutal. He doesn't grow up rich. He grows up in a junkyard. Yeah, that thing is like bare bones, like brutal Batman. It's very cool.
Yeah. So Liam Neeson's character.
Liam Neeson. I knew I was leaving out somebody big.
Yeah. It was pretty. Gary Oldman was originally like that was like what he went in for, kind of thing. Was to be Ra's in this universe.
Ra's, yeah. I guess they were like halfway through filming when they were corrected. They're like, it's too late.
It's too late. Yeah. I still pronounce it Raish. I can't help myself, and I will constantly refer to it as Raish, even though that's not what it is in the movie.
Yeah.
But I like this because it does have. Batman Begins, like for me, Raish is a cool villain for Batman in the comics. Here it's a little different because you kind of are wiping out a lot of what Raish is in the comics.
He's not immortal.
Yeah, for obvious reasons, obviously. Yeah.
Well, it was cool. It's cool because Ra's al Ghul is immortal in this, in the sense where the name like passes from person to person. I mean, I'm assuming they never specifically say that.
No, because he even explains to Bruce that he just uses these people as sort of cover. He's like, because he's like, it's like you have two identities. Why not me? Kind of thing. So it's just,
which is a really cool way to make that realistic.
Yeah, because if that were the case, then Talia would just be. If that were the case, then Talia would eventually just be like Raish or whatever, it's just, but like it's cool to see them sort of take the concepts that go with the Al Ghul clan and the League of Shadows and all that stuff and sort of like adapt them into like reality, like even when you get to Rises, which we'll get to obviously eventually, and sort of taking the idea when they sort of eventually take the idea of the Lazarus Pit and sort of turn it into like the prison that he's going to climb out of the hole of and stuff. Like it's very simple. Like it's a concept that they just what would that mean? What does like this sort of like myth mean if it was in reality, kind of stuff.
Yeah. I always thought it was to bookend the well that he falls in with the bat.
So and Guy Pearce was like in the running, but like because he just come off a Memento with him, but he was too young. They decided he's too young to be the character, so which is fair.
Guy Pearce was too young.
Yeah,
Christian Bale's younger than he is.
But to be this character, to be Ra's al Ghul.
Like, I thought you meant as Batman. Okay,
no, yeah. Ra's al Ghul.
Completely. Okay, now I 100% agree with you.
Yeah. Katie Holmes, who eventually gets replaced by Maggie Gyllenhaal.
for some reason.
For some reason, did we ever get?
It sucks because her role was so small, but I think she was getting divorced from Tom Cruise at the time, or maybe she didn't want to die. But it was you kind of go from like cute Katie Holmes to like looks like she's about to drop dead Maggie Gyllenhaal. You're like, have you slept in your entire life? Her face makes me want to go to sleep. She's good, but you know. They were talking about Rachel McAdams, and I would like that more. She would have fit the Katie Holmes thing. I mean, she's barely in the fucking movies.
For Detective Gordon, you have
Sergeant Gordon.
Sergeant Gordon,
Sergeant Detective Gordon. He is a detective.
It was like they offered it to Chris Cooper.
Oh yeah.
But he turned down the role.
He's way too angry looking to be Gordon.
Yeah, he looks like he would have just shot Batman on sight if he was Gordon. Like never would have worked with him.
Gary Oldman does a cool thing when he's talking to Batman until like the very end scene. He always kind of looks freaked out. He's like looking at him like, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Gary Oldman's fantastic.
Yeah, and Cillian Murphy has Scarecrow.
Which is another reason it looked like a prequel because they used brand new villains for it.
Yeah, and Scarecrow's always been one of my personal favorite Batman villains because of how sort of like it's the perfect kind of like random thug kind of villain where it's definitely somebody that could exist with just like amped up to 11, like just a psychopharmacologist who's gone corrupt, who is just using it to control people for his
There are
own.
a lot of psychologists that are, kind of like that. Maybe not a lot, but there are. It's known for, people
I mean, that's Brian Wilson.
Which is really cool.
Yeah.
So well, it's funny because most of Batman's villains.
Yeah, and there's no difference between. There's really no difference between Scarecrow here and like Scarecrow in the comics. It's almost the same character. Like
I was thinking about it. I was like, he isn't really that much different.
Yeah,
just very small. I mean, like Ra's al Ghul, major difference, and with this, you're like, I mean, not really.
And it made sense to like in this situation, since the movie revolves around the fear toxin.
Yeah.
It set up your expectations to that still be what the Joker is. Because the Joker you're so used to Joker, and no matter what it is, his gimmick is like the Joker toxin, Joker gas, whatever form it is. Never went that route. So
no, I like that they got rid of both of the acid villains in one movie. They're like, okay, no, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
That's not very realistic. I remember I was mad that not mad, but I was like just kind of disappointed. I was like, it sucks because Two-Face is such an important part of Bruce Wayne's story. Yeah. And you're like, if you had that done to your face, you wouldn't be able to live very long. Like, it's a good point. And these, as Batman Begins, we thought they were setting up this giant franchise, not that they were like, okay, we're gonna also end this in 3 movies.
Yeah. What was it was funny with it's because Joker. It wasn't really acid for Joker. It was chemicals that just.
Yeah, I guess it's true. Yeah, vat of chemicals. That's right. I guess so.
Yeah. But it's.
You didn't have to watch '89 Batman, so maybe we'll have to do that after this.
But yeah, and with Two-Face, like I think the way he got mutilated in this franchise is actually far more detrimental to his ability to survive than what happened. Because people get acid splashed on him all the time.
What do they do that? Did they do that in China or something? Remember that was a thing or it was like the Middle East. They like do it on, I don't know, hussies or something. They throw acid on them. It's like a thing to do over there.
Yeah. That's just a thing that happens. So, and to have that, and that would be far more traumatic than like in a lot of senses. But this particular version of Harvey Dent is not long for the world because the trauma and the infection and everything from like everything being exposed and stuff, he would be dead. By the end of the month.
He doesn't. I think he only lives for like a day after this.
Yeah, it's.
They're gone for very long.
Yeah, because like if you were just acid burned, like your skin would just sort of heal bad. Like there's no healing from the damage he got in Dark Knight.
That's true. Yeah.
I do like. I'm always a big fan of seeing Ken Watanabe in a movie.
Oh yeah, that was another one because we had just seen Last Samurai, and I was like, oh yeah, that guy. Okay. Yeah, I love his voice or his accent. I'm not sure.
It's got such a it's got Ken Watanabe, who I absolutely love. Ken Watanabe.
Yeah,
it's the best part of the American Godzilla movies is Ken Watanabe.
Oh yeah.
And
the only
you
good part about that movie.
Yeah, and you for whatever reason
be allowed to die.
For whatever reason they got Rutger Hauer to be the CEO of Wayne Enterprises, like because the most like
no one loves Blade Runner.
Yeah. Just Rutger Hauer.
Yeah. Well, okay, I like his character because it's funny in movies there's usually like the good guys and the bad guys, but I like the antagonists that aren't evil. They're just pushing up against your main guy. And even if they're kind of shady or whatever, he's not like an evil guy. And he's trying to just pull one over on Bruce, but it's cool to have him. And there's somebody else in this, but I can't remember who. But anyways, I like that because you're like kind of waiting for Rutger Hauer, like, oh, is he going to be like the Riddler? It's like, no, he's just a guy. He's in the comic book world. They're not trying to set up fucking everything. He's just some guy. Which I like. I do want to say that the League of Shadows mask that the gas mask that Liam Neeson has on the end.
Yeah.
I want that for a Corona mask. Like, when that first happened, I was like, I want that fucking Liam Neeson mask. Like, that thing looks strong. It looks cool.
I do like that the corrupt cop guy that's in it, Mark Boone Jr.
Flask.
Who just like he just
He's in Memento.
Yeah, he just like is all because he was like a major guy in Sons of Anarchy.
Oh, Flask, not Flask. I was like, wait, it's not Flask. It's Flask. Probably drinking on the job.
Yeah. In Memento, he's Bert.
Yeah, he's the hotel dude. He's like the first guy he talks to. He's like, wait, did we just have this conversation? He's like, yeah.
Yeah. It's
What's that?
Yeah, I like that guy. He's got a good look. He looks shady. So
yeah, he just looks like a piece of shit you can't trust. You know, he's probably the nicest guy in the world, though.
Yeah.
Oh, and Morgan Freeman. Of course, that was like when you heard the Morgan Freeman in the fucking movie, you're like, oh my god, that's so awesome. And he's so good as he always is. He just adds that little Morgan Freeman touch that just kind of makes you feel nice and warm inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when he got his intro, because he kind of gets an intro, because you hear his voice talking and then you see him. So there's a little bit of buildup. I remember high-fiving my friend in the theater when that one
happened. So the guy that plays Joe Chill also, he had like, let's see, 1, 2,
I've seen him in something else. So I was like, it's Joe Chill.
Yeah, he's in 4 movies this year alone in 2005.
Joe Chill's on fire.
Yeah, in 2005, he was in Batman Begins, Doom, Munich, and Soul Searcher. He was in, let's see, Black Dahlia.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he was in the Halloween 2, the bad Halloween 2.
Yeah.
Thor, The Dark World. That's right.
Lannis Roach, the guy that plays Thomas Wayne's funny because he's in Vikings, is King Egbert, and is like the biggest piece of shit in the world. I watch Vikings and I didn't recognize him at all, which I normally do. And if I don't quickly identify it, which I usually do, I'm like, I know that guy from something, and I had no idea until I looked him up. I was like, who the hell was he in Batman Begins? And then I found out. Oh, so it was pretty funny because
who played Thomas Wayne? Oh, it was Jeffrey Dean Morgan, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
In Batman vs. Superman.
And Maggie from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Negan.
1 second. Yeah. Which is cool, because I remember, we always talk about this. Every time a new Batman movie starts, we're like, how many times do we have to see the death of fucking Bruce Wayne's parents?
Yeah.
But at least in the Batman vs. Superman, it was done way different. It was like artsy, and like you didn't really see the scene play out so much.
Yeah.
It was more it was different.
Yeah. And I do like in this one where they have it be like Thomas Wayne just being a good dad, just like he takes the blame for it, like instead of Bruce wanting to, like he does it.
Yeah. Well, and with this, obviously,
not Zorro. It's always
Zorro.
It's always Zorro, so it's nice to see it not be Zorro for once.
Yeah. Well, and in this, obviously, they had to show the scene start to finish because the kind of movie they're making. Like, it's cool that Bruce falls in the well, has the bat thing. I didn't really realize this till this time. And then they go to the play, I think, like that night, or if not, because Bruce is in bed still. He's like hurt. So it's within that day or a couple days. And then his parents getting murdered connected to that event. So it's like cool that the bat things happened and like at once, basically. So it makes sense to have a strong psychological tie with that.
Yeah.
Which like I said, didn't realize this time. So this came out on DVD the same day as the original 4 did.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that day I got all the movies. And I went to my mom's to get all my old stuff, which wasn't that many things. But it was like mostly Batman stuff. And I was like, God, I really love Batman because I hadn't seen 89 in a really long time. And I was like, why do I like Batman so much? Then I watched 89 and I was like, oh, fuck yeah, this is why I like Batman so much. And then I like watched them, those. And of course was disappointed by Forever because it wasn't cool anymore. Yeah. And I didn't even watch Batman and Robin. But then Begins, then I got super into it. And then that's when I started to read the comics because I think you let me borrow Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns, yeah.
Strikes Again is very good. But Dark Knight yeah. And then I remember watching the making of, and they like talked about that and the Killing Joke and stuff. And I went to Half Price, and lo and behold, they actually had the one I was looking for. And then that started my whole Batman comic thing because I was so into it, and I was like, I want more of this.
Just recently got. I just recently got a early so the Killing Joke was a huge hit like out the gate. I got an 8th printing of the Killing Joke, which is just recently, which is really cool. Like to have for the most part, that it's not as fun. I like getting old comics, but the Killing Joke was sort of its own standalone thing, and there's not like there's ads in it or anything. It's just its own thing. So, some of that stuff. I mean, like as much as I love, the Killing Joke. This isn't the podcast for like my opinions on Frank Miller and Alan Moore's contributions to the world of DC Comics, but they did so much to save Batman, but also did a lot to like really fuck Batman up for the future because everyone's chasing that high now. Everyone's trying to do their own Killing Joke or Year One.
Well, the thing about Killing Joke, it's not very good.
It's fine. It's sort of now everyone wants everyone goes back to the well too much. It's cool when it's its own. DC has an imprint called Elseworlds, or did. I think it's Black Label now because it's like their mature stuff. I have the Black Label is great because the very first Black Label comic was a series called Batman Damned.
Batman's Damned.
And it's the Joker has been killed and he's working with Constantine to solve the crime kind of thing. But it was recalled. The first issue was recalled. And it's the only way to get the standalone first issue is a first print. It only exists as a first print. And it was recalled because there are 2 panels in it that shows Bruce Wayne's dick.
For some reason.
Yeah, it's like he got beat up and he goes into the Bat Cave and he's like just stripping down and taking the bat suit off, showing his scars and stuff. And it's like shadowed, but it's just like, okay, well, there's Bruce Wayne's dick a couple of times.
That was a big scar on his dick.
It's in the shadows.
Batman gets it everywhere.
Yeah, it's in the shadows, so it's obscured, but you can definitely tell what religion he is. And it's not super impressive. You'd think Batman would be more impressive, to be honest. Yeah, I absolutely have that issue, and I'll never get rid of it just because of how stupid it is. That was recalled for that reason, and it's just like, hell yeah, here it is.
Oh yeah.
But like
one of the things,
yeah.
I was completely changing subjects.
DC handles. Oh, I was like DC handles Elseworlds stuff and like alternate stories. Like they took something that wasn't Batman canon and have canonized it completely at this point, and it sucks. Like like it was so popular, like Killing Joke, and Killing Joke has just sort of this lasting effect on Batman in terms of writing and story to this day. Like even in the Joker War that just happened, like they talk about like the whole shooting Barbara Gordon thing and all that stuff. It's and this is like, you know, after years of like rebootings and things like, but they can't escape Killing Joke. They just have to make it canon or else they'll die, I guess. I don't know, but like at least year one is a really good story and it's like inoffensive. It's a super simple Batman story. And it doesn't really have any lasting effect. Frank Miller's really good when he's reeled in on this kind of stuff because like I like Dark Knight Returns is a good story, but it gets too much. Frank Miller indulges in himself too much of that story, and by the time you get to the end of it, it's starting to fall apart because it's just like he's trying to just top himself in each panel and everything.
It's satire, so it kind of works on that kind of zany, you know, over the topness anyway.
When you have somebody like Alan Moore with The Killing Joke, who doesn't like comic books and
anymore,
and like doesn't really like superheroes, and like his whole point was to like make a thoughtlessly like cruel reality of that, and like, or you know he eventually goes on to do Watchmen, which is like the peak of sort of superhero satire.
Deconstructive.
Just stuff. Absolutely. Like I saw somebody make a tweet the other day or something, and it made me laugh because it was like Alan Moore, like 1980s, and it's like, what if superheroes were assholes? And it's just like now everybody today is like, what if superheroes are assholes? And that's all you get now is like everyone's doing their version of the Watchmen in some way, shape, or form. Yes. Like, you know, The Boys is a big thing right now, and it's kind of treading the same territory. Not in the same way, but in a very similar kind of vein of Watchmen.
Yeah.
And DC clearly has absolutely no understanding of the story of Watchmen, because the way they sort of exploit the franchise is just the worst. And we could go on and on about that. We need to do a Watchmen episode one time. Because
I almost bought that on 4K last time, but I went for Interstellar instead because I was about to watch it anyway. It was just gonna make the jump. I forgot that DVD came with the.
That's a good move. Interstellar looks beautiful in 4K.
Yeah, I forgot the DVD came with the film cell of the IMAX.
Yeah.
Mine looks cool. It's not a great shot, but it's Michael Caine in the wheelchair, like rolling away from the camera, and it's a cool looking shot. But it's not like,
I forget what mine is. I forget what the. It was an absolutely uninteresting shot. It was like a shot of the black character in the movie. Like it's just him.
Oh, the dude.
Yeah, just him. Him.
I got lucky with my Phantom Menace one that came with the widescreen DVD, which of course I got later just as a collector's thing. But it's Jar Jar jumping on the broken in half battle droid.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's a badass one because that's actually like an action one. But
boy, the leading up to Batman Begins coming out was just a lot of misfires, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah, because they were trying to get that fifth film out nonstop. They were just
for Batman. I thought
for Batman.
Okay.
It was just like, because at one point you had Batman Unchained.
Unchained.
That was what the title of it was going to be. It was Batman Unchained. That was the Scarecrow one, and Harley Quinn was going to be in it. At one point,
I fucking hate Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
You can't see me shaking my head, but I fucking hate Harley Quinn.
Now that Harley Quinn is such a popular character, but she's a good guy now, DC needed to figure out a way to have a new Harley Quinn. So they just recently introduced a new like female Joker sidekick named
Sidequick.
Yeah, or no, she's Punchline.
I was pretty close.
Yeah. But like it was Batman Unchained, but I think everyone knows it online as Batman Triumphant.
Yeah, that's what I'm used to it as. Not that I've read much on it, but
that was never like it's really like became. This is one of those. Yeah.
Do you remember what
was it? It was going to have
title for Begins was?
No.
Intimidation Game.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Everybody thought it was called Batman Intimidation Game.
Yeah.
Which is what I always called the Intimidation Game.
Yeah.
Because intimidation rolls off the tongue slightly easier.
So I know that Schumacher asked Nicolas Cage to be Scarecrow in that.
That's right. I was going to bring that up, but I thought I was wrong. No,
you were right. Yeah,
we've done that. Just I'm the Scarecrow. I'm very frightening. You're terrified. You're just wiggling in your boots. You're just absolutely frightened. All right.
Yeah, but do you remember who they ended up going with when they were working on that movie?
No.
Coolio.
I almost choked on my beverage there because of that. Not really. Coolio, huh?
Coolio, yeah.
Never was Dangerous. Was he in Dangerous Mind, or did he just do the Gangster's Paradise for it?
I never saw Dangerous Mind, so
and I never will. At this point, maybe if it fell across my desk, maybe. Yeah. But I've seen High School High too many times to want to care about Dangerous Minds.
I'm looking at his cast listing and stuff. He says he was in Batman and Robin.
He was in those gangs. Didn't they do the Light Up Glow gang again? And he was involved.
I think wasn't he just Coolio in it? Like it wasn't even like a. Or was that a different movie where he was in it as a cameo and it was just him as Coolio?
It could have been. I don't give a fuck.
In the hood. Yeah, boy, he was in the director's cut of Daredevil.
actually saw that because at the time I liked Daredevil, and they got the director's cut, and it was improved, not much, and then watched it not too long later, and yeah, it sucks.
It's okay. I don't think it's definitely far from being a great movie, but
the only thing I think of with it is it's the part when she's Jennifer Gardner is training and she's doing it to that Evanescence song, the "Wake Me Up Inside" or whatever. I actually read the lyrics to that ago because I wasn't 100% sure what it was, and I read the lyrics. I'm like, what the fuck is this song about? It was really funny.
But so yeah, that movie ended up not happening because Batman and Robin was hated.
A disaster in every single way. I saw that the last day of school in like 5th grade or something, and it was like I even hated it then. That was when like Forever was like the best movie in the world. Yeah, and the Superman movie they were working on was canceled 3 months before shooting, and it's already it was like $150 million movie that just got shit canned. So then they were just like, well, what do we do with Batman now? And that's when they came up with the idea that they were going to do 2 Batman movies. They were going to do the Frank Miller Year One. Oh, Schumacher wanted to do that. Schumacher really wanted to do Year One.
Yeah.
He wanted to do it before Forever.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay, give us this one movie. And he's like, okay. And then they're like, well, that was such a hit. Do it again. And he's like, okay. Schumacher's problem is that he's just too nice. He's not a bad director at all. And he's dark. He's really dark. I just watched 8mm. That movie's fucking dark as hell. And Flatliners and stuff. He's really good at that. He's a good director. And he just kind of said yes.
Yeah. So they were going to.
Not that he's bad. He just was agreeable.
Yeah. So they're going to do Year One and Batman Beyond. Those are the 2 movies they were going to do. Yeah.
I love Bruce Wayne with a cane.
Yeah.
I love that they did that right. I mean, I don't know if it was on purpose or whatever, but it was just cool. It was very
cool. Yeah. No, I like Batman Beyond's a really good Batman. Like it really handles Bruce Wayne really well.
Oh yeah. I can't remember his name right now, but whoever created that show, Tim something or other, he's he understood it. He understands Batman.
Yeah.
He's really good. God, I can't remember. There's a book sitting right over there that I can.
It's Bruce Timm and Paul Dini.
Bruce Timm, okay.
And Paul Dini. It's a
Paul Dini was one of those where he was really good, and then he had kids of his own, and then his writing just fucking went out the window, which has been known to happen before. That happens from time to time. He was good though back in the day.
He did some stuff for.
He did create Harley Quinn, so I can never forgive him for that.
Yeah, he did some work on the Clone Wars.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He also wrote for the Ewok cartoon show.
Yeah, and he did some work on that recent Creep Show.
Oh.
That TV series. What I'm trying to remember what. He adapted, or it wasn't adapted. It was original. It was called Skin Crawlers. That he did. It's a good series. Highly recommended.
One thing I do want to point out, though, is the Gotham license plates. So is Gotham supposed to be the 51st state in America?
Yeah, it's funny because there is a map of the DC universe. It's hard. It's like it exists.
I think Metropolis is to the south of Gotham, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, because if you look at it and you have like, what the hell's the Green Arrow city? Like Century City or some nonsense like that.
Yeah,
that I can't remember. But yeah, what was like you look at it and it's not like it's like what like because Metropolis and Gotham is like Boston. Like you think of it as New York because it's got like the islands and all the bridges and stuff, but it's like Metropolis is actually more New York than like, all that. It's like it's this weird, like you look at the placements on the maps and stuff, you're like, that's okay, I guess.
Gotham is 80s New York.
Yeah. It's the New York with like the Jason Takes Manhattan style where it's like there's steam coming out of every sewer grate and just barrels of like toxic barrels of like toxic waste and stuff. It's that kind of I guess there was another Batman movie called Dark Knight coming out at one point.
Oh yeah.
That's all one word. It's not Dark Knight. It's DARKNIGHT.
That would have confused the bejesus out of your average moviegoer.
Yeah. And it was supposedly like a Dark Knight Returns-ish kind of thing. Yeah. And it's got like Dick Grayson going to Gotham University and and there was a Robin spinoff at one point. But
okay. Robin had been in one movie, I guess 2 movies. I love that he's like the 30-year-old orphan that has to go live with somebody.
Yeah.
To be his legal ward, and you're like, Chris O'Donnell, like, and he's kind of young looking, but I sure as shit know he's not under 18.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have the and then at the point you had like they were trying to like do the Batman Superman stuff in like the late 90s, early 1000s. Until eventually they just finally settle on Batman Begins.
Yeah.
It takes a while to get there, but it gets there.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. Well, I mean, we can all think this to Nolan because he was the one that, you can see the direction they were trying to head. Then you get some young blood in there that has a fresh take on it.
Do you know who?
I don't know if it was all him or if David S. Goyer had this original idea. No, because Nolan got hired, and then he hired Goyer because he said he loved Batman, but he wasn't a comic book fan per se, or he wasn't like an expert. So he wanted to bring an expert on board.
Yeah. And the 2002 is when Warner Brothers was first presented with the idea of rebooting Batman as an origin story. Joss Whedon had pitched him the script. So
exactly like year one with a bunch of shitty one-liners thrown in there. Bunch of quippy dialogue.
Yeah. But you eventually just get your way to Batman Begins, and there you go. You get 3 movies out of it.
I've seen this movie a lot, like to the point where I was watching it and I knew like at least half of the lines, which I don't know with a lot of movies, but this was one of them. I was like, wow, I know a lot of these lines, and aside from just care about what you do with your future, because obviously I still remember that line. I do love like it's funny to watch a movie because obviously things are going to change. Like I do love the look of Gotham way more in this movie than the next movies because Dark Knight and Rises were all on location and this was all a set. And I like the look of it more. It was more unique and it had a more, had more of an original look to it. And it wasn't just them in Chicago. I mean, I'm not complaining about that stuff, but I was disappointed in Dark Knight when they kind of changed the look because you're like, oh, this is like big and everything, but I really like the way it looked in the other one. It's just so shitty looking and just like garbage. I mean, they're basically in the Narrows like the whole time, but it still makes. I mean, I still like the look of it more. I think they did shoot like the.
It's funny
car
to look
chase
at Christopher Nolan's like. Probably that seems to make sense. It's funny to look at Nolan's like movies and just to see like.
How fucking amazing
where he started and how like there were no like middle, like there's no middle spot. It's just like it's pedal to the floor kind of thing. It's just like
I mean, Insomnia was a small movie, but it had a big cast, and then Begins. I mean, it's a relatively small movie for a big movie, like the action's not very big. Like the car chase is the biggest action scene, and even like the rail car chase fight at the end is just like kind of digital sets and then them inside of it. It's not like, Begins or Dark Knight where you get a fucking semi truck flipping over in the middle of the street. Like
I do like, we talk about that final thing there. It's funny to see like where the Batman movies go because they ground them way more after this movie because like the villain's plot in this movie is some comic book zany nonsense.
Scarecrow's done this many times.
where it's just this like they've got the fear toxin and the League of Shadows like are fixated on bringing Gotham down because it's such the big city.
The blue ball they failed last time, so they really want to knock it out the park here.
So they steal. Yeah, so the plot is that they poison the drinking water with the fear toxin.
Yep.
But the fear toxin can't be consumed like that. It has to be inhaled.
It has to be absorbed through the lungs when the moisture is taken out. So people have been drinking it for weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
So they have that vaporizer.
Yeah, so they steal like a piece of like weird, like kind of military tech vaporizer thing that can turn water into gas, which will then turn the water that everyone's been drinking into gas. So they will, they'll activate the fear toxin, and they've got it hooked to the monorail system that they have built around Gotham, and is having it drive around Gotham. And that is some wacky comic book nonsense, and I love it.
Because they make it sound so real, like the way they explain it and stuff, which is cool. And but they definitely it's more realistic.
Yeah, they just go for like this, like because like there's no way that this kind of plot would ever could ever play out. Like it's just so I love it. This is honestly, after watching all three of them, I think Batman Begins is my favorite at this point.
It was for me until Rises because I like The Dark Knight, but I was like, Bruce Wayne kind of disappeared in that movie. I mean, it was a great movie and I loved it, but I was kind of disappointed in that sense because I loved, Bruce Wayne in this and the psychology of it was so cool. And then in Rises, they bring that back, but then retain the big action from Dark Knight. So I thought it was a good combo of 1 and 2.
The thing about Dark Knight is that it exists only on dialogue. It's not an action movie. There's not a lot of Batman fighting anything in that movie. It really is just a lot of people talking to one another to try to psychologically figure out what the next step is. Like
in The Dark Knight?
Dark Knight, yeah. It
was pretty fucking action packed.
Not really, though.
I guess it's a fast, exciting movie. Like it's full of tiny little action things. There's not like the huge. Even the end of that movie, the very end is just like even with the fairies. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's not like an action scene.
There's no action. There's like the bank robbery at the beginning, just this one thing, and like he doesn't really get into a fist fight with the villain of the movie at any point. Like
it's a short one with him and the Joker. It's a quick fight. And then knocks the SWAT team guys over, and him and Harvey Dent at the end is nothing.
Yeah, it's a movie that revolves a complete, like everything that you remember about The Dark Knight almost revolves completely around exchanges between characters.
Yeah,
that's true, things that Ledger said, things that the Joker said to the bad guys, things that Alfred said to Batman, things. It's mostly a dialogue movie, and that's not anything wrong with that in any way, shape, or form. No. A phenomenal movie. It's just and you get to and Dark Knight Rises has more fisticuffs because Bane is a fighting villain. Like Joker was never a fighting villain, never has been.
No, Batman villains usually aren't physically imposing. They're usually just kind of more psychological, like Batman saving people from them as opposed to him duking it out with them, or usually duking out with their henchmen.
Yeah,
totally.
So,
which was cool.
Yeah. But this one just has a combination of like there is dialogue because you have to establish who Batman is, but then there's a lot of him just being Batman. Like
right from the beginning they pull you into Bruce Wayne, and then you're just following Bruce Wayne, and you're like you don't really think about Batman, which is really cool because Bruce Wayne and Batman aren't separate necessarily. You're just watching him become Batman without the mask on.
Yeah.
Which is great. One of the lines I love in there that's a total preview line, but it's great, is after he drives around in the Tumbler and then he's very satisfied with it, and he's suggestively stroking the steering wheel, and he's like, does it come in black?
His delivery of that line is so cheesy, and I love it. Like
it was a great joke for us, because these movies, my only problem with them, and it's not every time, it's just sometimes, the one-liners like that bug the shit out of me, and I'm like, God, this movie's stupid, I hate these lines. And sometimes they don't bug me at all and I don't notice, and other times I can't get over them. Like The Dark Knight has a lot of really stupid things, like when the little kids are sitting there pretending to shoot at the cars, and then the Bat motorcycle comes up, and you're like, really look at those kids. Or when Batman and Rachel fall off the building, and then you see the guy drinking his coffee, and then they crash on. Like, why did they show that guy? That was so stupid. But obviously with a movie like this, they're gonna put those lines in. Either the studio's gonna do it or you're gonna do it. So they do it as well as they can. But Rises kind of gets all that kind of stuff, which is one of the things about that one so much.
It is funny to see the Batman movies because, like, if you look at like the ratings for them, like Batman Begins, like its general sort of critical reception is like high, but not like shout it from the rooftops high. And then you get like the Dark Knight.
I love this movie.
Yeah. And then you get like Dark Knight, which was just like this absurdly successful and critically well received and like, just well received all around kind of movie. And then I was surprised
how well that movie did, because for those of us who watched Begins and loved it, we were eagerly awaiting the next one. And then all of a sudden everybody else was there, and we're like, when did you guys jump on board?
Yeah. And then you have Dark Knight Rises, which just sort of is in the same grounds as Batman Begins. It has sort of the same reaction to it as Batman Begins, which is reasonable to me, because it's like, like the people that are like super into it, like have been there since the first minute. So if you liked Batman Begins, guess what? You're going to like all of these. The one thing that, the one impact that the Dark Knight, this franchise has that sort of changed Hollywood in a major way was its marketing campaigns across the board, especially once you hit The Dark Knight. It went like super, like using the internet in weird ways.
I have one of the newspapers that they handed out in Seattle. My sister saw it and she got it for me, but then my cat spilled fake blood all over it, which kind of went with the Gotham paper. Still, I looked them up on eBay this morning actually, and I was like, how much fucking money is this worth? $25. It's not worth anything.
yeah
Especially my blood-soaked version. Although it's pretty funny to see Nolan, because he grows from this, because the fights in this movie are great, but you wouldn't know it watching the movie because you can't see a goddamn fucking thing that happens. It's close. it's shaky, and you can't tell what the fuck they're doing. Like on the making of it shows them, and they're like, "Oh, we use this new fighting thing called KC fighting that it's never been on film before." And I was like, I had no idea. And it like shows them in the making of. I'm like, that's what they're doing. Like you just see this blur of action happening. You just gonna have to take their word for it when you see all those flashes. Then the guy drops, and you're like, I guess Batman beat the shit out of that guy. I'm not really sure. But no one said he wanted to have the bad guys or the fights from the bad guy's point of view. So Batman was kind of a blur, and I was like, that works for his like first intro scene, but not all the other scenes where you literally have no idea what's happening.
It was cool seeing the trailer for the Batman. Just where he's just wailing on the guy, uncut, and it's just like
the camera. You told me it was cool. It looked cool, and I was like, "Yeah, this is cool." And then that happened. I was like, "Oh my god, I can't wait for this."
And you know what? I get it. I get it, but at the same time, I like it when the Batmobile is just a fucking cool car that he's like jacked up to be like his Batmobile. So when I see the pictures of the Batmobile from the upcoming Batman, I'm like, oh hell yeah.
Miller script, it's a Corvette with a school bus engine in it.
Yeah.
It's like totally insane. Yeah, no, it looks cool,
yeah. So I'll be interested.
That was a little thing for people who have been hanging around with Batman for a while is him with the mask off with the black makeup around his eyes.
Yeah.
In the movies, he's not wearing makeup.
Yeah.
Because you never see it. And you don't see him, putting it on after he gets the suit under. Alfred, he's like, well, stay still, Master Wayne. I can't get this if you're bloody moving around. And then, like, that was funnier than I thought it was going to be. And Batman Returns, when he rips his mask off to show Selina Kyle who he is, he has the makeup on, and then the next cut to his face, it's not there because he rips it off. I remember having the trading card of that, and I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with his eyes? And then, of course, I got older and knew what was going on there. Batman's a sissy, and he wears makeup.
Oh, poor Batman.
Yeah. He like goes to a beauty class for a day to figure out what makeup and like how to apply it.
Yeah.
He's like matching it to the suit.
It's not like he has to do anything. He just has to do like the Furiosa and just like rub it on his face and then put the cowl on.
Yeah. You only see it in that little spot. You don't see what it looks like around on his eyebrow and stuff.
Yeah.
He just like his eyes and he's just like just rubs it in.
Yeah.
Depends on how much of a hurry he's in.
Yeah.
He's got like the
I would like to think that he has it like there's just like a hand and he just like rubs it inside the mask. So when he pulls it down, it just like it automatically wipes down his eyes.
Yeah, that's really funny. I love when he's fighting Liam Neeson on the lake, and Liam Neeson has like the gauntlet where he has the sword on and he slides it, and you're like, that's where he gets that from, because that's like something I was always aware of Batman having, but never really thought too much about it. You're like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm into this. I see what you guys are doing. I love the relationship with Fox, because he's like, whatever I don't know is for the best, and just like how they talk about it but don't talk about it. Well, and I like that a lot of people know who Batman is, which is really cool, because he does need help from all these people, and in the comics, outside of Gordon and like Lily Thompson, he doesn't really have that much help.
So it's cool. I have to say, in the comics, Batman has too much help. There's
if you're just looking at just Batman only.
Because like in the comics, in the comics, you've still got like three or four different. You got like all. He's got the Bat family. There's like
that's true.
You got Gordon,
Robins, and Nightwing,
Gordon Fox. Gordon Fox, Alfred, Batgirl, 3 or 4 different Robins, and there's like other Bat characters that you would know nothing about without and like like Azrael from time to time or something, and then like the rest of the Justice League and stuff. Like Batman has like and like half of them all know who he is. Like I always love it when Superman just always just straight up calls him Bruce. Like it doesn't even try to pretend.
One thing. Now I never understood why people shit on the Batman voice. Because I'm like, he has to do a voice. He's covering up his voice. Of course he's doing a voice. Where people are like, why does he talk like that? I'm like, because he's doing a voice. Just like, why do you think he's wearing a mask? It's the mask equivalent to his voice. But his voice in Begins is a lot different and a lot better.
It's better. He's doing a better job at he's not trying to be like a video game character and is just trying to like modulate his voice to throw you off, as opposed to just trying to. It's not like he created a fake voice. He just is just fucking with his voice. And
He's really like doing he's not just like kind of yelling raspy. He's like on the rail of the cage. He just like kind of does a it's really cool. I wish he would have stayed with that. Because then when he has the dude upside down, that's when the future Bat voice came out.
Yeah, the pray to me thing ends up being what ends up being what the Bat voice becomes in Dark Knight.
Where were they?
And then he like and then he like triples down on it in like Dark Knight Rises. He's like go big, baby.
I think once you get to the Dark Knight, like and like you normally don't notice it because Batman doesn't talk much, but he's like, I'm not wearing hockey pads. Like when they when he's like having the emotional scene with Harvey Dent, it's kind of funny because he's just like talking like that, and he's like, we three, you were the best of us. It's like
and the thing that I don't like about the Batman voice is that he has to physically do it. So like he's doing like making a weird like face and also like trying not to move as much. So it looks like he's trying like he's
taking opera classes to project his voice like this.
Yeah, so like when he's on the rooftop with like Gordon and Dent and doing the thing and moving as best as he can in the suit because like close. It's like with a lot of movies, like the close-up suit is like impossible to work in, where like the action suit gets to miss some parts of it, so the stunt person can use it a little better.
That was a cool.
It's like thing in Ghostbusters, the proton packs, like when they're doing close-up scenes, they're metal. They're real deal heavy sons of bitches. When they're just like running around with them on and stuff, they're foam.
Like the lightsabers and like guns, they're like rubber. They're doing stunts and stuff. That was cool in Batman vs Superman when he has the thing he puts on his throat and just like distorts his voice. I was like, it's a good addition, guys. It was a good one.
It was nice. I like that Batman because it's a smart Batman, and I like smart Batman.
Yeah. Oh, I love fucking Affleck Batman. Like that is like the closest they've got to my Batman. He's just fucking brutal. He throws people on their head and cracks their necks and stuff. That was.
It's a bummer. I would like to see like the Batman before he became that Batman, just like the idealistic Batman and stuff. It'd be cool to see like him as like Batman.
The second he branded somebody, I was like, oh yeah, Zack Snyder gets it. Like he knows what's going on. Like here we go. I'm loving it. I would have liked in this movie more of Michael Caine and Lucius Fox together.
Yeah,
I had like that one exchange, and I'm like, oh god, I'd love to see that movie. Just Lucius, always a pleasure. Everybody's like, always a pleasure, Lucius.
Yeah, like he can't say
these two guys together.
Yeah, I like that. I love that he just can't like. It's like it's Lucius. You don't have to like go weird with it and like Lucius or whatever. Just Lucius. Like we know what the name is. Just say it, man.
It's his accent. This is Cockney as hell accent. I think Eddie Izzard has a funny bit about getting mad at people and going full Michael Caine, and he like this just a Michael Caine voice. Did you?
Oh yeah, no, you go.
Did you catch how old Bruce Wayne is in this movie? It's pretty big. It's pretty big back there. You don't have to look too hard.
Yeah, I did, but I didn't.
I was wondering if you remembered more. I know you saw it. 30.
Yeah. 30. Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to move on to the final segment here.
Oh, final segment. No,
unless you just get the shit you want to get out of the way. You just keep going. What do you want to talk about?
See, my notes. I don't have to say them all. They're just there.
Yeah.
I do love it when he's leaving. Batman's leaving to leave his party to go to the car chase, and he tells Alfred, "Tell him that joke that you know."
He's like, just the one.
Joke. Yeah, he doesn't have like a whole comedy routine or something. Yeah. It's about his days being in the army. Well, I was going to say, the thing about every time they do a different incarnation of Batman is, unfortunately, they have to play against the previous one that just came out. And like for this one, like you notice it the most in the music because Danny Elfman music has a lot going on in it. And this doesn't. Like the Batman theme, just like those two notes, just dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not shitting on anything, but I'm just like saying that it's like, I thought about it with the voice for Ben Affleck because they're like, oh, is he going to do a raspy voice? Nah, Christian Bale's pretty big for that. So what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of times I just kind of have to do things just to not be like the other one. not to be like the previous movie.
Yeah.
Were you gonna go into the other things that came out and everything?
Yeah, we don't really have to go too deep into it because all of it's the number one movie of the year is a movie we've already done on the show. So
What was that?
What?
What was that?
You're telling me?
Oh, number one movie of the year.
If 2005 was?
I was thinking Academy Awards. That's what I was thinking. Another one of my favorite lines is when one of Falcone's the Joker's thugs, the Scarecrow's thugs, is when they're Batman gives him the fear gas, and Batman looks fucking terrifying when he's a demon, and he's like, the things I say about him, can he really fly? That's another one of my favorite ones. Can he really fly? Oh, and another little shout out that I saw in there was when the Batmobile flies up onto the roof or whatever, and the security guard looks into his coffee. That is an homage to the Roger Moore James Bond movies.
Oh, because
there's a couple, I know 2 at least, where a guy does that. Like when the white car comes out of the water onto the beach. There's a guy sitting there. He looks at it, and I don't remember what the other one is. But yeah, I guess anything else I deem as important, I'll just interrupt you. Well, we're doing a lot of that because we're not actually in the same room together. So I don't see you talking. You kind of go and you freeze, and then I start talking, and then all of a sudden it cuts in, and you've been talking this whole time. So I look like a dick for interrupting you. I'm pulling with Trump, and I'm interrupting your Biden.
Yeah.
We had to make a Trump reference.
Yeah, but that's just you anyways. So
we won't be able to for much longer, so we might as well get it out of the
way. Not a good year for the Academy Awards.
It never is. Oh, hold on, real quick. I'm interrupting you. My first one. I do love when Alfred is putting Rachel into the back of the car, and those people think that he's like date raping her or something. Yeah. Okay, that's it.
No, it's the picture of the year was Crash.
Oh, I never did see Crash because I figured there was no point. Everybody said it was just like an Oscar grab movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because it was, that same year $1 Million Baby came out, which he was the writer for too.
Oh yeah,
which is a better movie than Crash, but
Paul Haggis or whatever. Yeah. But
and he wrote Casino Royale.
He did, yeah. He's a classic writer. He's kind of all over the place.
Would you like to know?
The Next 3 Days, which was a great movie.
Yeah. And he is uncredited for the rewrite of Terminator Salvation.
I just added that onto Amazon, and I was like, dare I watch that again and laugh at it? Like, not unless I have people with me. I'm not going to do that by myself. Can't really watch a bad movie to laugh at it by yourself. So I always feel like there's way better things I could be doing with my day.
And he also co-wrote a video game.
Oh, did he?
What?
Did he?
Yeah, he did a Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's a good writer. He got in trouble for raping people or something, right?
I don't know him that well.
There's allegations that came out about Haggis. Back a couple years ago when everybody was getting accused of doing everything.
Oh, that's he's a Scientologist too. So.
Oh yeah, whatever.
Or was and then left Scientology.
That seems to be the way it goes.
Yeah.
Seems to be that's how it happens. Is that they wore Scientology. I know there's a Leonard Cohen album that I really like, and he makes a lot of references, and I'm like, what the fuck does "Are You Clear" mean? Turns out it's a Scientology reference. He's like, he was a Scientologist for like those 6 months that he made that album or something. So a funny thing about this movie was that it seemed like it was all a setup for subsequent movies. And more than 2, because it's like I thought it was a great idea where they were like, oh, okay, so all the crazy people got out of Arkham, and they all got gassed by this thing that makes you crazy. So they're going to be doubly crazy, and because it ends, and he's like, oh, all these people are out there, and they need to get back in. I'm like, that's their explanation for why there's all these lunatics running around in Gotham. I was like, oh, that's a good idea, guys. And another one of my favorite parts is when the little kid walks up to the League of Shadow guys, and he's like, I need to find my mom. And then he just like pushes his face. And then Katie Helm like, hey. And then he just points at her. Like, he doesn't say anything. He just points at her until Liam Neeson starts talking. I was like, why does he point at her like that? He's just like, makes that shit-eating grin on his face, and he just points at her. It was like such a weird move for him to do.
Yeah.
And I do love in the my last and final thing. I do love it on the on the newspaper at the very end when it says "drunken billionaire burns down home."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like which one he's going for? This is so funny.
Yeah.
Drunken billionaire.
And I do like that by the time you get to the next movie, he's spending most of his time in like an underground bunker in like the shipyard.
Yeah, yeah, cool. When he does such a good job, just like with Superman, because as a knowing about Superman before I even knew what my own name was, I you're always like, why the fuck does nobody know that this is the same guy? And then you watch the Christopher Reeves movie, and you're like, oh, because he acts like such a goober that there's no way this guy could be. And I was like, that was the first time I actually believed it. I think you did see past the curl and the glasses, but with Christopher Reeves,
because he did the cool thing where he changed his posture between the two characters, and that changes everything.
Yeah, and he's just such a goober that you could just never. Because even Lois Lane, I clashed the actress's name and her name, Lois Lane, because she like looks at him, and she's like, nah. But I mean, in Christian Bale, that's what's cool about this with Batman. I mean, I think it's pretty much always been like that, but where he is actively trying to make Bruce Wayne look like something different than Batman is. And it's really cool how they do that. That he can, and of course, Michael Caine's trying to like, well, don't make yourself look like too much of an ass.
Yeah, but you still need to respect your family's heritage. Like, drag it through the mud.
Yeah. Which I thought that was a great idea for Batman because because I don't think you would necessarily believe that Batman and Bruce Wayne were the same person, aside for looking at the gadgets or something. But just the fact that he does that to completely throw you off the trail.
Yeah.
And whenever there's a conversation of Batman, Bruce Wayne's always against Batman. I love in The Dark Knight when they have that intellectual conversation about the crime and justice and the law in America with the Russian ballerina. I was like, man, she sure has a lot to say on this subject.
Yeah. It's a good joke. It's a good joke.
I'm like, I don't think she would really have all these opinions about this. I figured she was just traveling through America. I didn't know she had these really deep thoughts on morality. All right, I'm ready for your final segment. I won't interrupt you.
Which we've already done it before. You just interrupted me again.
That was part of the joke.
We've already done it for the most part. Like, we don't need to go through a lot of these movies. 2005 wasn't a particularly exciting year for film for the most part. Sin City. They had the Fog remake. That Chronicles of Narnia movie came out that year.
Oh yeah, that was good shit.
Yeah, and I think it was in one of the. It was in the. So the top 10 movies were Revenge of the Sith, obviously.
Of course.
Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Gay ass fucking Harry Potter.
Just make me censor you constantly. Number 3 is War of the Worlds.
Oh, that movie sucked.
Yeah, it's not good. It's a hard thing to adapt.
Yeah.
It asks too much because it's like, as a radio show, it's kind of exciting when you listen to it because it's like, it's all you have is the sort of descriptions and stuff. But when you just make it like a real thing that people are experiencing, it something gets lost in translation. Like even the old War of the Worlds, it's a good movie, but it's not great. Number 4 is Chronicles of Narnia: Lion, Witch, and Wardrobe. I forgot how big that movie was when it came out.
Disney didn't really know what to do with that franchise. They just kind of half-assed like making them, and then they're like, "Oh, the kids have all grown up. Yeah, fuck, what are we gonna do now?"
Yeah. Number 5 is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I never did see that.
I like it. I know most people don't, but it's fine. It's good.
Yeah,
it's different. I mean, it's not. What was it?
I'm willing to watch it. I just haven't.
It's got all that Tim Burton appeal and aesthetic.
Yeah.
And Johnny Depp's doing his thing. And
I'm not
it's wholly different and independent from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's not a remake or anything. It's just like another adaptation of a classic children's book, and I think it's fine for what it is. I think the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is very different from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's a better movie, that's for sure, with better characters, but I think it's still and better music for sure in the original one. But number 6, Batman Begins. So it's right there. Yeah. Number 7, Madagascar.
I never did see that one.
Number 8, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Yeah. Number 9 of the year was Hitch.
Yeah, that was good too. I just saw that not too long ago.
And
but
10
put Will Smith on screen. It's at least going to be a 5 out of 10, just because Will Smith.
Yeah.
Even though he's crap, at least you got some Will Smith in there.
Yeah. And number 10 is King Kong.
Oh god, that fucking movie.
Yeah,
those movies I liked at the time, and then saw it a little bit later, and you're like, oh god, why is this movie so goddamn long? I think we talked about this extensively last time.
Yeah. The theatrical cut is 187 minutes, and the extended cut is 200 minutes.
Peter Jackson's weird on the extended cuts. He's like, this isn't the preferred version. And you're like, then why the fuck did you make it?
No.
And they'll use different takes sometimes and improve on things. And you're like, that's the director's cut.
Yeah.
You are making it better. I think it might be his preferred version, but he doesn't want to say that because he still likes the original and he doesn't want to shit on it in case you only like the original. I don't know. Yeah. I want more Lucas people out there who are like, this is the movie. There's no options. You have to watch it. And that's the way it is.
Yeah. I would even be fine if you change your mind at a later date or something. Some time has gone between me and this version. Like Spielberg did with E.T. It's like, I changed it. I don't like it now, so I brought it back.
Yeah, he always does that. Yeah. I think he hears what people say and he's like, oh God, I don't want to make anybody mad. And then he changes it. Which is funny because he's such a visionary. You don't want to care.
Yeah, his changes are bad anyways. That's one of the ones where I'll say his changes are just changes. They feel like studio note changes. Then
the only thing I remember is the toothbrushing scene, and I think that's it. And then E.T. jumping in the fields instead of just being on a track. But
and it is very obvious when they edit the guns out of the cops' hands. It's very obvious.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but I don't remember being obvious. But I just remember the only reason I even fucking noticed that was because everybody made such a big deal out of it.
Yeah, because it's they don't even do a good job at because it was so early and all of that kind of stuff. Like George Lucas made it and it's I could do that too, and it's clearly you can't.
Come on, Spielberg.
Yeah, but just commit to one. I don't care if you change it later. Just commit to the one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's always weird when it's cool to have 5 or 6 versions of Blade Runner or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but also I'm never gonna watch
only gonna watch the one.
Yeah, and I don't even know it's Close Encounters of the Third Kind is weird too because it's all 3 are super different in weird ways.
I've only seen the director's cut of that one.
Yeah, and I can't remember. Is the which one is that? The middle cut? Is the director's cut?
That's the middle. Because special edition, it has everything. I don't know if necessarily stuff put back in, but he shot him on the ship.
Yeah,
the original cuts right when he gets on, and this one shows them on there.
Yeah,
is that they added footage, reshot it?
Yeah, is that which version is that?
Special edition.
So it's not the director's cut version. It's
director's cut takes that out.
I don't like the inside of the ship.
I've never seen it, so
I don't like. I think it. I like the sort of awe of the unknown that you get with that. So it's he's going on that ship. We're not going on that ship. He's going on that ship.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is that? So you're doing the Academy Award?
No, because I just told you Crash won. And that's all that matters. That's really all you need to know. It's it was the year of Brokeback Mountain and stuff like that. Yeah. It was not a good year. And overall, it wasn't for just average movie stuff. It wasn't that great. It just happens to have 3 or 4 massive things that really sort of.
2 of my favorite movies ever, and fucking 3 because I love Sin City.
Yeah.
Sin City was awesome.
It is funny where it's just 2 comic book movies, and I like the Constantine movie. I do.
I liked it then, and I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, I recently watched it again, and I'm it's actually a really good movie. It's very, very, very loosely Hellblazer, but that's cool.
Yeah. I've come around on Keanu where I realized that he's just a very subtle actor, and he'll have some bad lines here and there, and you normally don't get that. Like, you're not going to have one bad line from Christian Bale in any movie he's in, but Keanu, you'll get a couple in a movie, which is below par for for most of them.
As a person that just as a person that just watched like all 3 Bill and Ted movies like back to back. It's his line deliveries when he's trying to be funny can be hysterical at times. The way he knows what the character is, and so when he says stuff like I forget what it's like, his Circle K delivery and stuff. It's just so good, and he's really good in the Bill and Ted 3. Really good in it. That movie's great. That movie's actually genuinely good. It's a great wrap up to a trilogy.
I watched Speed earlier this week, and when Jeff Daniels is in a bad, and when he's bad in the movie, that they just have a really bad director because Jeff Daniels is great. Keanu Reeves is not bad. He's on par with everybody else.
Yeah,
and Sandra Bullock is obnoxious. Oh shit.
Yeah,
just never stops yelling.
And it's funny that she's the star of the sequel. Of the people to bring back, it's her.
It's bad when Keanu ducked out. We've seen what he's done, and he's like, I don't think I'll be doing that.
It's especially that era Keanu. Where,
was that? I don't know. Yeah, it was pre-Matrix. I was thinking maybe he skipped that to the Matrix, but no, that was a few years later.
Yeah,
because Speed, I call it Heat. Speed was like 94 or something.
Cruise Control. Yeah.
Heat 2 would just be called Cold.
Cold. Yeah. No, that's the prequel. That's before it gets hot.
Yeah. Lukewarm. So Begins was that was I know a lot of people that always liked it, but then it just got way better later on.
I'd be curious to see how, because everyone just loves Dark Knight so much. I'm really curious how often people actually see Batman Begins when they're watching this stuff, because I wonder, I can't imagine it being a movie that people go back to as often, just because Dark Knight is just the one of the franchise. So
I usually watch Dark Knight Rises. That's the one I watch the most. When I first got these on 4K, I watched Dark Knight Rises, and then I've seen Begins a lot. I remember there was a while where I had already seen it a lot, and I watched it every day for a week. I was just fucking obsessed with this movie. And I was super into Batman, and there wasn't a lot of Batman movies out there, so I usually don't want to watch only because I've seen it so many times. Nothing to do with the movie. Just I'm sick of it because I've seen it so much, which is my fault.
Yeah.
So I usually watch Rises because I've seen the least because it's been out the least, Yeah. And I love that one the most. So when I got these, hopefully for the last time ever, I watched Dark Knight Rises, and then Dark Knight then Begins, and then I watched Rises again, and then a couple months later I watched Rises again, and then I watched Dark Knight twice that week because it was so good. I was just so into it, and then I think I watched Rises again. So good, I can't just watch it once. I got it, kind of like Revenge of the Sith. I usually have to watch that one twice when I watch Star Wars. You kind of watch them in order, and then I go back to that one. You're frozen there.
Yeah.
You there?
Okay, there we go. There you are. I don't know what happened there. Everything dropped.
The internet was farting.
And you froze it again. Yeah. I'm just letting it catch up to itself there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny. You dropped completely from my screen. It's so funny.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure it's the other way for you.
You just froze. I dropped.
Yeah. 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 Just went completely black on your end. So I don't know. It's I'm crystal clear. You're kind of fuzzy. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this right now. I mean, also the internet's weather, inclement weather can kind of fuck this stuff up.
Oh yeah, it's true. Yeah. Oh my god, there was thunder so loud. I was on the toilet, and I was on my phone, and it was so loud. I jumped and I swiped way farther on my phone than I intended, and I thought the windows were going to shatter. It was so loud; it scared the shit out of me.
Good thing you were on the toilet then. Yeah. But I guess that's a great way to wrap up this episode.
Yep. Yeah, I had more to say. I can't follow it up, so I'm just going to quit right there.
Yeah. I'll probably cut this part out just for the sake of cutting it out.
Because, I don't really have more
to say. Yeah. But we'll be back. Well, the next episode after this one will be we'll talk about the Dark Knight, and then we're just going to do all 3 back to back. Who knows? Maybe we'll just make it all kinds. I think. I'm bad at getting these episodes out. I was like, we should do a Halloween episode, but it'll never make it out in time for Halloween. So.
It was a day late and $1 short anyway, so.
Yeah. So.
That's the name of the show right there.
So we're right here in the Nolan verse. We're going to kick back later with The Dark Knight, then followed by Dark Knight Rises. And who knows, maybe we'll just go through every Batman. Let's just do it. Let's just go through all the Batmans.
Well, I would agree to Returns in '89, but that's as far as I can
go. Nope, you're doing Forever and End Robin. And I will begrudgingly watch Batman versus Superman for you.
I'll do that. I like that one.
I know you do. That's the problem with you a lot of times.
What's that?
But so we'll be back with those. Thanks everyone for joining us. And what's a good Batman sign off?
Care about what you do with your future.